Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone. It's great to have a few people here with us on our webinar live this morning for the CMALT CMOOC. We're into week 6. We missed last week's webinar. Unfortunately, well, depends how you look at it, but we had a long weekend in New Zealand last week, and a lot of us took an extra day off, and so I was actually traveling during this time last week. So if I'd actually arrived somewhere, we would have still had the webinar, but I was in the car, so it didn't really work. So with me this morning, we have Lisa, and Lisa, I think, is currently busy on a phone call, but she will be joining us. We have Ben. Now, Ben's got a bit of a cold, so he's just going to be lurking in the background today, or else he'll probably have a coughing fit. And all the way from Palmerston North, we have Stephanie. So welcome, Stephanie.
Hi.
So this week we're looking at choosing a specialisation. Now last week was sort of looking at communication, collaboration, which is really a key part of any teacher, any educator. But this week is a specialisation, which I guess is kind of unique to you. What's an area that you have specialist skills in, that perhaps you develop in a way that's unique. It may be something that a lot of other people do, but you approach it in your own particular unique way. It's something that you're passionate about, and that really sort of, I guess, makes your portfolio particularly different from anyone else's. So that specialisation could be a huge range of things. I know some people have done things like looking at women in technology. So that's a particular specialisation for Maren Deepwell. She's actually the CEO of ALT, Association for Learning Technology, and ALT is the main body, the sponsor behind CMALT accreditation. So one of her specialities is looking at women in technology and education, and they have a Twitter handle, Fem EdTech, and a whole range of different activities, and she supports people that way. So other specializations that I've seen include things like accessibility, and often we kind of forget about accessibility. So particularly for people who are hard of seeing or hard of hearing, how do we design technology to be accessible for people who have perhaps an accessibility issue or impairment in their learning, and make learning available for a wider body of people. And so there are some people that have taken that as their specialisation because that's part of the work that they do. So that would be things like encouraging the use of metadata on anything that's on the internet. So instead of just putting a photo on the internet, you actually describe the photo in the metadata, so that someone who's visually impaired and is using a text reader actually gets described what the photo is, rather than just a file name or this is a photo. Doesn't mean a lot if you can't see it. So if you put a description about what the photo is, this is me surfing in Hawaii or whatever, then at least it gives some clues to a visually impaired person. And I've also seen people do a lot of work around a while ago now, but using iPods and the built-in text-to-speech feature that is on Mac, is also on Windows, for people who are deaf, and or blind as well. And saw a demo where a keynote speaker in the UK was actually blind, and I didn't even know until he turned on his iPod and said, "This is how I listen to stuff," and it was at twice speed, and so he could review a document by using text to speech at twice the speed that I could read it, because obviously he'd trained his hearing to be able to do that, and it was quite amazing. Everyone there who wasn't used to it, it was pretty hard to follow. It was so fast. So those are some of the areas. I mean, mobile learning is my specialty, and also the scholarship of teaching and learning. There's a whole range of things. Perhaps supporting online platforms, etc. So I don't know if you've thought about it much, Stephanie. Do you think there might be an area that you'd choose as your specialisation?
I was just thinking about that, and I guess my question is, because I still feel I'm rather new to, a new practitioner to learning technology, which is hence why I'll be going for the associate one. For CMALT, do I need to have a developed specialty, or could it be an area where I would hope to develop in a specialization?
Yeah, so it could be more about developing one, starting particularly for associate. In fact, I think with associate, the specialisation section is not required. I think it's only for the full CMALT and for the senior CMALT that you actually have to have that specialist section in your portfolio. So that's a good point. I think for the associate, I think that's an optional part of the portfolio.
I mean, I certainly have some ideas, and I think that it's worth me not ignoring this area, because not just because, oh, I don't have to worry about that, but I think it's good to have some ideas and specializations to work towards.
Yeah.
And at this stage, I've got ambitions where I would maybe like to help people in my community have access to resources that they wouldn't have access to. For example, when I was pregnant 3 years ago, I took an antenatal class, and I had to miss one of the classes, and I just noticed, and it was a free class, and I noticed there was a lot of people from all walks of the community and spectrum. And from that idea, I've just thought, wouldn't it be nice if some of these materials could be accessible online, low cost or free, and how does that happen? So this is just an idea at this stage where I'd like to see where I can develop with this, and help work with community organizations to help people who wouldn't have access to resources they would need otherwise. So I don't think that's anything I could include in a current associate portfolio, but it's certainly something that I could work on curating and developing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, I think most people who are involved in education, you're involved in it because you want to have a positive impact in society in some way. So either for your students or the wider community or your colleagues. And I think that's a big motivation factor for anyone involved in education. And then if you've got the skills, how could you benefit the wider society through educational technology? And I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
I think at this stage, I'm still developing the skills themselves.
Yeah.
So it's just, a development not only for my portfolio, but in the skill set itself.
Sure. And Lisa, what about you? Have you thought about what you would put into your specialisation section?
I've had a couple of thoughts, but I'm thinking maybe pursuing the one about linear design and the ABC workshops that we're doing, and how that can be developed not only with people that we're working with, but the wider community and wider faculties. It's just how I'm going to approach that. But I think that's probably going to be one of my options.
Yeah, I think that can be very powerful because, as we all know, most university academics don't necessarily have any teaching qualification, and so we perhaps tend to default to teaching how we were taught. And the same with curriculum design, it's based upon perhaps the first course that we were handed when we started as a teacher. And so being able to bring into it some sort of criticality, some collaboration, being able to work on on different ways of developing curriculum and assessment can be very powerful. Yeah. And I did like that ABC workshop. I thought it was a really nice approach to it. I like the fact that it was based on learning theories, based on a conversational framework. And I like the way that it really sort of tried to guide people into making good decisions around curriculum design without it being too onerous.
Steph, do you know about those ABC workshops?
No, I was just making a note of that. So.
Well, I'll go off sound for a minute and find the link and stick it in the chat while Tom keeps talking. Give me a minute.
That'd be fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the key person there was Clive Young, I think his name was, Lisa, from the UK. Has sort of, I guess, come up with this concept and then gets to travel around the world showing people what the idea is. But it was just very nice and simple, and I like that it was simple, but enabled people to really think a lot deeper about their curriculum design. So usually Ian from Coventry joins us, but he hasn't so far today. But what I thought I could do is I'd just go and screen share and show you his what he's put into the project bank for his specialisation. So let's have a quick look at that, and then we can critique it with Ian not being here. So hopefully you see my web browser. Yep, good. Okay. So if I just go back to the CMALT WordPress site, you can see we're into week 6, choosing a specialisation. And the suggestion is that perhaps people share part of their portfolio or a blog post or something, reflecting on what they might put into their specialisation section. So Ian has done that. And so far has only got 1 vote, which is his default vote. Let's have a quick look at what he's put here. So, what does he say? I felt like I ran the risk of real duplication. I guess that's part of the thing really with the portfolio. There's a lot of crossover between the different sections and sort of deciding what do I put where and what section is best for this evidence, this experience that I'm describing. So yeah, there can be a lot of duplicate, and what you can do to minimize that is maybe cross-reference. So if your portfolio is online, which hopefully it is, then it's just a hyperlink to perhaps another section where you say, okay, the evidence for this, what I'm talking about is back in this section, and I'm discussing it in relation to my specialisation here. So what's he done? He said, I've taken a different approach, creating a video reflection, specialist experience. I wonder if he knows he spelled that specially. And then 2 short examples. So let's have a quick look at his link and see where he's taking us today. Looks like we're going to Spark again, Adobe Spark. Ian really enjoys using Adobe Spark. And it's just quite nice. It's something slightly different. Specialist areas. So he's got a video reflection, a little bit of an intro there, and yeah, he describes himself as an artist, a technologist, and a teacher. And then it's quite nice. I think what he's done here is kind of summarized his video in the text. So he's got a little section on developing others and digital media with a couple of links there. So once again, very nicely done by Ian. What I do like about it is there's not too much text there. There's the recommendation is around 500 words per section. It looks like Ian's done over that. But by putting some extra media in there, it just sort of livens it up as well. Let's have a quick look at his video. It's bound to be interesting.
Steph, I've put that link in the chat area. This is good. I really like Adobe Spark.
So is the video coming through on the audio?
Yeah, there's no sound, but there's video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying listening to it, and you are.
You are.
That's okay.
We'll have a look later.
Yeah. If you have a look, yeah. Maybe we can skip through it a bit.
Yeah, I had a double or an introduction to Adobe Spark about a month ago, and it really impressed me. It was really, really easy to use, but probably it won't be, my one won't be as advanced as Ian's. I really like this.
Yeah, so this video basically it gives an overview of the key influences on his practice, which I think is quite nice. So there we go. Just take that, go back out of that. So that was kind of what Ian's done. It would be nice to have Ian to talk through us, but maybe he can do that and share something on the discussion forum later. So thanks for sharing the link, Lisa. It's in the chat. We can also post that into the discussion forum.
I'll post in the discussion as well.
That'd be excellent. Okay, so before we started today's session, I had a brief chat with Stephanie just to see where she's at. And I think like a lot of people with the CMOOC, it's kind of, you know, a little bit on the just following along, wanting to put a portfolio together, but just, you know, not having enough time to do that. So I thought it'd be nice to get Stephanie to talk about where she's at, just to encourage other people who are perhaps in a similar situation, and that it's okay to be following along and you know, perhaps being a little bit on the periphery, but trying to, you know, work towards doing your portfolio, perhaps the next iteration.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is my first time joining this community, and when I joined a few weeks ago, I was super keen and thought, oh, I'm going to try to put together this portfolio and submit in, you know, with the next round in January. And I just then quickly realized life happened, and a lot has suddenly fallen on my plate this month. That's just work life, family life. That's made it pretty tricky for me to find the time to set aside to work on my portfolio and develop that. So I decided at some point that I would continue to participate a little bit more on the periphery by attending these sessions each week and you know, keeping in touch, seeing what's going on with on the discussion board. And so for me right now, I think the biggest benefit from this is just reaching out and becoming part of this community and getting that encouragement and bouncing ideas off. And I think for this stage, I think that's okay. And I think a lot of people can, you know, hopefully find that community here as well, because I feel otherwise quite isolated in what I'm doing. So I've really enjoyed that aspect of it each week, and that I have this time set aside on Friday mornings. And then I'll just continue, you know, gradually collecting materials. Now that I know what each of the steps and tasks entail, I'll just collect those materials. Gradually, maybe I'll post it. I did create a WordPress site, but I'll probably keep them in maybe like a Google Drive folder and gradually curate them as I go along. And then eventually look to submit that, maybe not, you know, probably not in January, but maybe another point next year.
Okay, yeah, sounds like a good plan. And you've been collaborating with Kavita from, she's from Brisbane, isn't she? I'm sorry, Melbourne.
That's right. So Kavita and I met at the Escalate conference last year and really, you know, just hit it off. She and I are both very much at the same spot in our careers and have similar teaching backgrounds. And so we have been, over the last few months, just developing our professional, sort of peer professional relationship with each other, and we decided to pursue this CMALT course together. I think she's probably much further along than I am, but we talk probably once or twice a week and bounce ideas off one another for this, as well as other ideas of where we're going with our career. And that's just also, in addition to this wonderful community that I'm connecting with here, that's, just been huge as well.
Well, so that's fantastic. I mean, that's one of the big things that we wanted to achieve, I think, is that building a network, an international network of people support people. And, particularly when perhaps you're the only person in your team or department who's, got the educational technology focus and needs a bit more wider support. So for me, it's about the experience, not necessarily about getting the piece of paper, because the piece of paper, is about your experience, it's not a tick the box process. So whether that's this run through or next one, or three in the future, that's it really depends on, as you say, life and what gets in the way. But in the process, hopefully, we're developing this network. The community is supporting a network of people that can really go beyond our own practice and our own institutions. So we're kind of coming up to our time for today. And I just want to say thank you very much for Stephanie for sharing where she's at, for Lisa for joining us, and especially thank you to Ben. Ben's been watching us. He's got a terrible cold, so he didn't want to disrupt us by coughing. But thank you very much, Ben, for being with us today. And for anyone who's going to watch this later, hope you enjoy it. And look forward to people posting in our Moodle forum. The key place to go and find stuff, if you want to find the discussion forums, etc., is our WordPress site. So cmaltcmooc.wordpress.com. Have a look there. Everything's linked off there. So once again, thank you, everyone. And we'll join, hopefully, everyone again next week when we're looking at future plans. And that's pretty much the last one for this particular series.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Good talking to you. Bye.
See you
Great
later.
to see everyone.
Bye.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes, bye.